got their marriage license. So he's in a t-shirt and she's just in a Saturday little outfit of some kind, and the wind was blowing, and but they've got this big smile on their face, and they've got this marriage license.
Yeah.
They're not married yet, but they got the license.
Well, we have that picture too, from a couple weeks ago.
All right, good, good, good. It's an exciting time.
You know what? I left my daughter in the car. We'll get that real quick.
Looks like I have a space here.
You do?
All right, let the dice.
Yes. We're here to, what is it, serve as a secretary. Because
Ex officio secretary, yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
And,
Superintendent next. And
kick me if necessary.
the elbow, the kick.
That's, at least it used to be. Sometimes I'll zone out. And you already signed that.
I got to watch him on Saturday. He's doing really good. He's crawling everywhere. With help, he actually wants to walk now. So he's getting there. He's getting there. Yeah, he's still on 3 medications. So we're still not quite sure what's going on. Because there was a lot of trauma with the surgery. So his heart still needs.
Always going to the best place.
Yeah. So we just, but
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call?
Walter Manowski,
Present.
Peter Hernandez, Elizabeth Martinez,
President,
Patricia Moore,
Yes, sir.
Elsa Rodriguez,
Here.
one absent.
Thank you. Are there any comments for closed session? I see none. Can I have a motion to convene the closed session?
so
Okay. All those in favor?
I.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, so then we pick up our stuff and go. Okay, there.
Good.
I just, I got it.
Did you see me? Yeah. Oh, is that what you were doing?
Also, check. She was just gonna go check to see if she has.
Yeah. I had a few, so Lisa had a few. You know, but you know, I mean, that's the way about the thing is, look, every expert I talk to, so how do you think about things done? That is in focus, right? That's just so reordering. Yeah. Going around, right along. You know, I have this, you're supposed to, there she goes.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And, we got the flag salute comes next. Everyone stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have some changes. We have Dr. William Barr, who is our interim superintendent. I'm going to give us a thumbnail sketch of your.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I know I'm not Lisa, Andrew, and for those of you who only attend a board meeting now and then, you may not have heard, but Lisa accepted a position in Santa Clara County that's a very prestigious position, and it's the executive director of the Silicon Valley Education Foundation. It's a multi-million-dollar operation, and I know she will do well, but she needed to resign from her district here and said many things to the board and, you know, about her time here, and I'm pleased that for her, you know, a goal of hers is being achieved in her moving to that position. The board asked to speak with me a couple of Fridays ago and asked me if I would be interested in being an interim superintendent, and I'm honored that they have asked. I feel privileged that they have said that they would trust me with the leadership of this district. I want you to know that I'm a retired superintendent, and I guess my final piece of my 40-year career, it's well past that now. But when I retired, it was 40 years, and I spent my last 16 years as Monterey County Superintendent of Schools. That's an elected position, as you know, and I was elected 4 times to 4-year terms, and you know, and led a county of about 430,000 people, and 24 school districts, 2 community colleges, a state university, which is not under my ownership, but I enjoyed all of that. And I since then have done some university teaching and a little bit of the center room stuff. And so my friends asked me why in the world would I choose to come back out of retirement into something that everybody sees as work. And I just tell them that it's just ingrained in me that I have a passion for education, and I like to try to contribute where I can. And I think Hollister is a very special place one of the other three interims that I have done is at San Benito High School District back in 2014. And I got to know Hollister, and I know it's a wonderful community. It has great school districts, and this is certainly one of them. And it's a very large operation, and I'm just privileged that, and honored that the board asked me to come in. The last piece that I would say is that I think it's very, very important that an interim superintendent not be a candidate for the position, the full-time position. And so I'm here to tell you, and I can guarantee you that I'm not going to be a candidate for this job. I will do the best I can in holding everything together. I have a wonderful staff. This is my third day. So I'm speaking with all of this 3-day experience now, but I think there are some excellent people that I've met. It looks like a district that has done an awful lot of good work. I will do my best to keep this ship headed in the right direction and provide what leadership I can. The board is going to be having some discussions about the process they will use to select a next superintendent. And I will support them all I can through that process. And I'm happy to help along the way. So that, you want to know more about me, what do we say in the modern world? Google me. And probably not much you can't learn from that. But I'm happy to be here. I should say that I did a lot of university teaching along the way too. I taught at San Jose State, the admin program for 16 years. I think some of your administrators know because I was a professor in a couple of classes. And I also taught at UC Berkeley in the doctoral program for 10 years. And so I enjoyed those stints, some before I retired and mostly after I retired. So I'm happy to be here. Hopefully I can live up to your expectations. And there is a limit at which retirees can work. So I'm going to be pushing your board toward that process for the selection process. They'll tell you more about that as they come to conclusions about exactly who would win and how, and that's going to happen. So thank you for the welcome that this district has given me. I'll enjoy my time here, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I noticed we have a translator here. If anyone needs translations, right? I can't say it in Spanish.
No one so far.
Thank you. We also have another special thing I would like to turn over to Mr. Chila. And he can share some information with us and recognize some individuals.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Barr. John Talia, Director of Facilities. It's my honor this evening to recognize two very special individuals for their awareness and courageous acts that they've displayed on behalf of the Hollister School District. On Friday, July 13th, around 9 a.m., our Department of Facilities Department received a phone call from the Calaveras League custodian informing us that a fire had been set to the pavilion or gazebo at Calaveras Park, which, as you know, is directly adjacent to Calaveras Elementary School. The lead custodian, as well as another custodian, were working that morning. They noticed smoke coming from the general area, and as one would think, it is a picnic area, barbecue there. They thought initially it was maybe somebody was setting up for some type of an event for a cookout. They then realized that this was not the case and found that there was a fire actually within inside the gazebo itself. Apparently a fire was set inside of a trash can that was adjacent to the actual structure itself. The lead custodian took it upon himself to dial 911 and notify the fire department, as well as the custodian took it upon himself to run into the library of the school, grab the nearest fire extinguisher, and proceed towards the gazebo, and made an attempt to try to put out the fire with the fire extinguisher. The fire, unfortunately, was much larger and grew quicker than the fire extinguisher was able to keep up with. But it helped just enough so it gave us some time for the fire department to actually arrive and put out the actual fire. So this evening, I'd really like to inform the board and commend these two individuals for their awareness and their efforts in not only protecting the assets of the school district, but also the safety of our community. So I'd like to invite Mr. Jesse Ortiz, who's the lead custodian at Calaveras. And Mr. Jose Delgado, who's also. We have a couple awards for you. Got it? Okay.
Okay. And let's see if I can get this right. You're Jesse. Yes. Thank you so much for what you did. And Jose? Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no, you gotta come all the way down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I must say, they're wonderful examples of the quality of people that work for Hollister School District. And I thank you, gentlemen, for your dedication and your foresight. Okay, closed session announcements. There was no action taken in closed session. Now, approving the agenda. We have some traffic issues in the process, so we're going to make some changes in the reports that we hear. So we may get those and then follow up. And my housekeeping duties, according to board bylaw 9324, the meeting is being recorded and is posted on YouTube. The camera is located over there. Members of the audience are invited to address the board on any subject on tonight's agenda when it is being addressed. Members of the audience during the regular board meeting may speak to the board on any subject that's not on the agenda during public comments. To help the board conduct more business efficiently, the board asks that you complete a speaker's card. Complete your name and address, name, that's all, I don't care about that. Present the card to the clerk when before the item is being discussed and wait to be called upon. We need you to put an indication of what you wish to comment on. Into the public comment. Okay, sometimes we have a lot, so we have to categorize it. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board. The board shall limit the time for public comments to a particular item to 15 minutes. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the amount of time for the public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to speak. The president may total speakers for or against a particular item and speak only if they have something new to add. Speakers are advised that their speech may be open to civil liability, and if it involves a complaint, to please see the complaint officer, Ms. Sanchez. And on to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item 13A. And I forget how we do it, but on 14B,
Wait a minute, 13A. So we
From
will open
consent
that
to
one
discussion.
for,
What's that?
we will open that one for discussion because it's just, an item on it.
Right.
We're asking for clarity. You're asking that that item be moved from the consent agenda to the
Discussion action.
Okay.
And then in item 14E, I forget how we do this, but I'd like to discuss what's AR 5111. I guess it would be BP 5111.1. And then the accompanying AR 5111.1. Yeah, two action discussion.
You were 14C.
We're in 14E, Edward.
Okay.
What was the number again of the policy?
Or AR, it's the 5111 series. Got it. Student residency. It's not a big deal. No, it's. Oh, there. Yeah, I guess it's just AR 5111.1. AR 5111.1.
That's the only one,
Yes,
not the whole series.
right. Yeah, 'cause I'm looking where my questions are. It's just that.
Okay, so it's just gonna be this one here, the AR 111.1.
It says students and then district residency.
Okay. Mine are printed in different series. Yeah. Than yours. Okay. So,
You're asking for discussion on that item when it comes to.
Discussion action, yeah, we got that.
okay. So other than, and then we will be moving the two reports to after consent items. So, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as indicated?
So moved.
Which, she can. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. So our first item that we, covered. We have a, public comment card.
And please,
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Good evening, Dr. Barr. Welcome to Hollister School District.
Thank you.
I'm Angela Higgins. I am the president of HESA, which is our educators union for HSD. So I look forward to being able to sit down with you soon. I've reached out to Jesus, hoping he can plug you into your schedule. Hopefully that'll be probably this week. School starting soon.
Look forward to it.
Members of the board, a lot of positive comments tonight. There's a really positive vibe, and I feel like a Debbie Downer now. I'm going to be honest a little bit, but I've been going through recent board packets on personnel actions, and there was just something that made me a little concerned. We're in a state of transition, and you guys have made it. Guys, listening, I'm talking to kids. You all have made it very clear, how the positive things that you have felt about the direction our district has gone in the last couple of years. But there's one glaring piece of data on teacher retention that I think we need to look at. We had 43 teachers released, resigned, or retired this last school year alone. 43. We have 283 members of HESTA. So these are just teachers. These are not school psychologists or speech or nurses, just teachers. The year before, we had 42 teachers leave. When I went and talked to teachers last May, to check in with how they thought, I was just elected as the president. I wanted to see where we stood. One of the biggest concerns they talked about was morale. They felt the morale in the district was very low. It didn't matter if they were a teacher leaving the district or staying. And this is the part that it's tough, but I think you guys need to hear it. They feel that the Board of Trustees does not care about their teachers in this district. They have reached out to talk with you and haven't been able to. They've emailed and get limited response. I acknowledge Mr. Bernowski for always, responding to us. They would love to have you visit their classrooms and see what they're doing. They feel lost that you're not visiting. And so they are asking that rather than we show appreciation during spring when it's the day of the teacher and we get a week or whatever, come talk to us. Engage in a dialogue with us. Your teachers are one of the biggest stakeholders in this district. And the stalemate that we've had, or the standoff that we've had for the last 4 years, lacking the dialogue, it's not helping the children of our school district. We need you to talk with us if we're ever going to get our children, our students, to achieve their fullest potential. Thank you for listening.
Next item is to conduct a hearing. Hearing on the adoption of the school facility fees analysis and alternative school fees and adoption of CEQA notice of exemption. And Mr. Ryan can talk about that.
Absolutely. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Barr. So California Government Code and California Education Code allow the school district to collect fees from developers, people who are looking to build structures within the school district's boundaries. What that's for is there's the idea that as there's this growth, as homes and businesses are built, that attracts people into the district, including students. And when we get those students, we have to house those students. So when we look at that, the government code and ed code says, okay, you can collect these fees to help pay for housing. So housing meaning school facilities so that our students have an environment in which to learn. So what this particular hearing is for is to look at the school facility needs analysis, which takes level 1 developer fees, which is kind of the baseline, saying, okay, well, this isn't quite sufficient because we're expecting all this growth, so we need level 2 developer fees, which is a higher amount per square foot. So what this public hearing is to open up the discussion for anyone who wants to discuss that school facility needs analysis and the subsequent potential approval of those level 2 developer fees.
Next question.
Thought we already had approved level 2.
So sort of how it works, level 1 developer fees, you have a justification study done at one point, and that sort of doesn't really expire, although it does have to be updated occasionally, which we will do shortly. And the school facility needs analysis says, okay, well, we'll look at this justification study for level 1. Okay, you can collect developer fees. The school facility needs analysis says, okay, well, when we really look at this, the level 1 amount is not sufficient, so we need a higher amount. So what we were looking at last year when the board approved the prior SFNA, that one justified the district to collect $3.58 per square foot of residential construction. This one justifies at $3.47 per square foot of residential construction. So it's basically every year the board has to approve these in order to keep those level 2 fees going.
And based on
Formula.
It's a formula that's,
Yeah.
that's spelled out in,
Based on the actual days of kids coming to school, the ADAs?
no, this is not, well, ADA plays a part of the formula, but really what it is looking at how many students, this development in the school district's boundaries, will bring into the, or could potentially bring into the schools.
What the impact of growth will be on the school district.
So Gabe, just to make sure you understand, what if we should adopt this tonight? What we're saying is we're adopting the alternative school facilities fee to be imposed by development within the boundaries of the district for the purpose of funding construction or reconstruction of school facilities.
Correct.
Period.
So that,
But we're not, but we're approving an amount.
right, so that would be $3.47 per square foot. And that is very restricted. It goes into a fund that can only be used for expanding school facilities.
Okay, and so, but we're not increasing the fee, we're not decreasing it, we're just putting.
So it's slightly decreasing. What happens is it's this formula that we have our a consultant come in and figure out the calculation. And every year it could go up, it could go down. It just depends on the data that we have, and it depends on sort of how things have been going in the past. So we've been seeing all this development around us, but we haven't been getting as many kids as we thought. So because that had been the case in the past, that's why they're saying, 358 was a little high according to the formula, so now we're at 347.
Okay, and that's level 1 plus level 2, or this
That's-
is just
that's-
level 2?
So that's just level 2, but you can only collect one or the other.
Okay,
So level 1 would be 192 or something to that effect. I'd have to double check it. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but the level 2 is much higher.
okay.
So, do we have an answer? I know it's probably a side question, but why we, because obviously this all kind of is like a domino effect. Why are attendances less than expected?
There could be many reasons why you would see growth without without that equating to additional ADA, and that could be Allenville and inter-district transfers. It could just be the people moving in.
If I could interject a little bit, it has awful lot to do with community growth and economic growth, jobs, the ages of the people who own homes, the prices of homes. For example, the state keeps a formula for new homes being built, and the price of the homes determines the amount of students per homes that would likely come out of those that would be of school age. Obviously, the higher the price of the home, the less likely school-age children are going to be moving into that home. It's going to be purchased by empty nesters, probably, some kind of executive houses that are not likely to have children, especially at the elementary level. They might have secondary, they might have college-age students who are not going to impact. So these studies that are done for school districts to help determine the rate takes into consideration how many students you currently have, how many classrooms you currently have, how many students per classroom do you have, what is going to be the impact. If there's going to be 200 new homes proposed to be built and they are in the jurisdiction of the Hollister Elementary School District, how many students are likely to come out of those homes? What are the prices of those homes? What is the likelihood of them being built, sold, and filled up within the next school year? What's basically going to be the impact of this development on the operation of this school district? And they know that we have to have revenue to support the funding of facilities to house. It doesn't really go into the operations of educating the students. It goes into the housing the students for our facilities and being able to accommodate them. So there are 1,500 districts in California. Some districts have a whole bunch of homes and very few kids in the schools. Others have a tremendous impact. They have a high population of families with school-age students impacted into a very crowded community. So any new development that occurs there, the impact's going to be great. They're going to need more facilities. So that's what the developer fee is. The state looks at it as like there's several players that come into the operation of a school district. One should be the state support of our schools and our facilities through our school facilities funds. They also feel that the developer should play a role in that when they say we've just purchased a couple hundred acres and we're going to build 400 schools, that they have a responsibility to contribute to the fund that's going to help build the buildings that will house the students that come out of their development. Of course, then there's bond elections, and you've been through that. You know about that pretty well, and obviously have been successful in this community in asking the community to support facilities, which is GO bonds, especially Prop 13, 55% bonds that can only be used for facilities. And those are the main sources from developer fees, GO bonds, and state facility funding are the main sources of income revenue for facilities, and developer fees are one of those. And the board has to set that rate fee all the time. And as a last piece, I'll throw in my opinion, which I'm known to have done many times in my life. The developers often, will say, gee, this is a really heavy hit on developers. When the truth is, the person that pays the developer fee is the homeowner. You build a home or you buy a home, they'll say, this is the price, this is the, especially if you build a new house. If I buy the acreage across the street there and I get a permit to build a house in San Benito County, and the first thing they're going to say is, well, have you paid your developer fee? We're not going to give you a permit to build a house across the street until you pay your developer fee to the school district. I, the proposed owner, the proposed builder of that, will pay the developer fee. So when you enlarge that to a couple hundred homes and some developer is developing that, they may say, gee, this is really heavy-handed on the developer. It's really the home purchaser, the prospective home purchaser, that pays the developer fee. Just to make it clear, because we often use vernacular that makes it a little confusing for everybody.
That's a fair statement. I appreciate that.
Well, you have to remember though, so a couple things, nice theory that developers are supposed to pay fees that they get remitted to us. We should test that sometime. But just remember, we're crying for affordable housing, and this does add to the cost to it. For 2,500 square foot home, we're adding $8,675 to it. Buy it. But,
Yeah, there's got to be some. I just don't get it. I mean, we have so many this is new developments. This is not, people just buying homes there because we have an open market. A lot of housing coming in, but not very many kids, and that definitely.
One last thing, Mr. Hernandez, if I might too, is that on that third leg that I talked about state funding, state facilities funding, when you go to the DSA for approval, Department of State Architecture, and you have you want a new school or you want funding from the state, whether it be full funding under hardship or full funding or shared funding, 60-40 from district and state, whatever it is, the first thing they're going to ask you is, are you maximizing your developer fee? We're not going to give you our money from the state until you have maximized your request from your developers. Because if that's the case, we're not going to give you what you asked for, because you need to ask for the money from the developers first, and then we'll see how much we can give. So it's a piece of the formula for state facility funding as well. It's really not just a choice of adding a little bit more money from the developers. It's a very important piece of the formula for asking for state facility funding.
and I know there doesn't appear to be anybody opposed to us speaking.
It's this very business.
Yes, it
Is
is.
there any other comment? I've dominated the public here. I'm not.
Okay, we close the hearing then. Closed. And on to,
We gotta take a vote on
11
this,
are
right?
reports. Let's go back to the
No.
original plan. Okay.
This is just over here.
Well, let's have it. Time to, catch your breath. Oh, and we have guests.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize for my tardiness. We were on the road. There were 2 highways closed and not a lot of lanes open. So here we are, and so happy to be here tonight to talk with you about the Arts Council and their partnership with our school district and how they have generously benefited our students. The district goal that this refers to is all students will achieve at their highest level, and this certainly contributes to a really well-rounded education for our students. I did find just a little piece of research that not only is art education for art's sake really important, but it also does increase critical thinking, and that's a goal for all of our schools and all of our programs. And I would like to introduce to you our Arts Council partners, which are Jennifer Lane and Amanda Chiato. Chiato, and they're part of the Arts Council, and they host a monthly meeting and a leadership meeting, a steering committee, and they've done all kinds of wonderful things this year, and I'm gonna let them take the show from here.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Barr. Welcome back to Hollister. I'm Jennifer Lane, Executive Director of the San Benito County Arts Council. I've been with the Arts Council for 8 years now, and we very proudly have had at first an informal partnership with Hollister School District since 2009, and a formal partnership with the district since 2013. And over the last 5 years, we've been able to see this program grow and flourish and really be more deeply embedded within all of our schools within the district, and I want to thank your leadership for that continuous partnership and support. So briefly, our Arts Council, we're a small staff of 4. I'm here with our Director of Arts Education tonight, who will go a little bit more into detail on some of our programs, and we're just reporting on this past year. So to start, oh, here we go. I do have slides. Okay, this is the opening. So our program is founded on the belief that we believe every child deserves access to a quality arts education. And I really want to underline quality. That goes into the content, the curriculum, the programming, and the artists with whom we are working on any given program. Our program has many spokes and hubs, and it is founded in a few different sort of mainstay programs. Our first offering is our cultural assemblies, that we bring in world-class performing artists into the schools, and we are proud to report that each school within the Hollister School District received 2 distinct performing arts groups this past year. So they might have received Magic Carpet World Dance or San Jose Taiko, or both. We work with a number of great performers throughout the Bay Area, and there's a strong emphasis on cultural diversity and exposure. The other mainstay part of this program is our artists in residencies, where we have an artist or a team working more deeply within a certain grade level or within a classroom. One of our most popular programs is our Dance Infused PE program, where kids, the entire school is learning hip hop dance in their PE, and I think almost every school received this program this year. We also implemented a TK art program at all schools this past year, since the TK was expanded throughout the district. One of the programs there is Elements of Art, where kids are introduced to line and color theory and so forth. And we also, in this next year, are really anticipating the growth in our school's mural program. We're seeing that pop up kind of in community settings. We were active in Juvenile Hall, Chamberlain's, on some continuation schools, and we've also been doing this in other districts, and we're hearing a lot of buzz here in Hollister School District, which we're excited about. Next, we partner with the County Office of Education and the district on teacher workshops. We've offered a series of workshops throughout the year, usually around 6, focusing on different mediums within the arts and bring in skilled facilitators. We're switching that up this next year to focus on 3 more in-depth sessions on STEAM education, 21st century trends in arts education, and equity and access. And I apologize for speaking through. Lastly, we also run, or actually not even lastly, another thing we do is we partner with the Youth Alliance on an after-school art program, which is free. And we do this at two of our more underserved schools in the district, Aro Hardin and Calaveras. Over the last 3 years, we've offered a ceramics program where every kid in the after-school Youth Alliance program has participated in a 6-week ceramics course. This year, we were able to add an after-school mariachi program. We actually launched an entire new mariachi group with a full, array of instruments. Everybody got to play, sing, and dance. And that's something we received additional funding for and will be expanding. Before I hand the clicker over to Amanda, I want to say countywide, we invested over $86,000 in direct arts education expense. This doesn't include our overhead or any indirect expense. And in this past year, our contract with the district was $27,750. We're requesting the same in this upcoming year, and we were able to overmatch that or over dollar for dollar with state funding, local fundraising, and business partnerships. Thank you so much. Amanda will take on for you.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Barr. Thank you for having us. We're always excited to come and talk about all the wonderful work that we do. And just this afternoon, I was out at Chamberlain's watching their theater performance for an arts integration summer workshop series that we did there, and got to see the students perform very moving plays and singing some songs that were really key and emotional. So I was affirmed once again about our work in the arts. So one of the great initiatives that we have at the Arts Council is with STEAM education. And we've really been seeing a big push regionally, nationally for STEAM. And basically it involves creating learning experiences for students that couple art and design with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to address what we all are dealing with right now, which is a global need for innovation. So sometimes this looks like arts and mathematics in regard to the nature of honeybees. Sometimes this looks like art and engineering and technology and game design. The other image here, or both of these actually reflect the STEAM initiative as well. The Box City project is an initiative where students get to design and think critically about cityscapes. They learn about zoning, they get to reimagine what their perfect ideal cities would look like. And this is a great practice for critical questioning and problem solving. And we're excited to be doing this at the fair again. So we've been piloting it and growing it. So it's been really exciting. The Global Cardboard Challenge is just a free program that we initiated. It's actually throughout the globe that there's a National Day of Play, and students are encouraged to get out into the community and create anything out of cardboard. And we partner with the Youth Alliance and the YMCA, and schools are also doing it at their site-specific locations as well. So actually, I didn't mention one more program that was on another slide. The Environmental Literacy Project is also a STEAM initiative project. Students are looking at the next generation science standards and water conservation through science exploration, poetry, art, and field trips to the Water Resources Association. They're learning about the microbes that treat the water and what those look like under a microscope. They also get to restore a local watershed and work out in our community planting native plants to restore local areas. And we partner with Point Blue Conservation Science and the Water Resources Association on that. And we will have grant funding next year from the California Arts Council to continue that program as well. So for community outreach, we're always, just like Jennifer said, looking at all of the spokes of arts education and building an artful community. These are two examples of some of our community outreach programs. The left was a free performance that we did last spring with Ethnotech out of San Francisco. This performance was called Red Altar, and it was a kinetic performance highlighting the story of 6 teenagers who crossed the ocean from China and crashed in Carmel Bay and began the fishing industry. So it was a very exciting moment for the community to come together, and there was a post discussion about immigration and race relations. So it was really exciting to not just experience the performance, but to go deeper into that conversation. Our county art showcase is always really exciting to see all of the different artwork come from all over the county. We partner with the County Office of Ed, and we also do some performances, local dance companies, the high school, and their improv group, which is really fun. Let's see, this is almost lastly. Our Arts Now community is something I'm really extremely proud of. Since 2016, we've partnered with the California Alliance for Arts Education on advocating for arts education for every single child in San Benito County. In February, we had a launch breakfast where we talked to the community about arts education and its value and what it currently looks like in our community. From that launch breakfast, we developed a leadership team of community members who are developing an assessment that we're going to roll out in the fall. That involves teachers. We would love to connect with the board on some of the questioning to assess resources and needs of the district so that we can help to meet those needs in regards to arts education. So, and a fellow district is also doing that alongside our district, Aroma San Juan, with Superintendent Huntoon, so she can kind of see what it looks like there, with the ultimate goal of having a district-wide arts plan that really embeds the arts in the curriculum every single day. So I think I'm almost done here. I just wanted to add that I spent the summer doing a lot of professional development that I believe is going to directly impact my work here at the Arts Council and in the district. I'm a passionate teacher and educator. I attended a program at Alameda County Office of Education on integrated learning for an entire week, and I'm very excited about the culturally relevant teaching piece and how that affects our community. Also, I had the opportunity to visit the Luna Institute for a week and learn about how to integrate dance and movement for all students in Hollister School District and the county as a whole. I think, Jennifer, do you want to close?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to spend a minute saying how lovely it is to work with these two and how lucky we are as a community to have this as a resource for all of our kids. A year ago, when I was first starting to work here and trying to decide where to live, one of the things that we first noticed driving through town was the Arts Council, and I remember thinking, oh, this is like going to be a great place to live, because where there's art, the community is really vibrant and alive, and it's been a really, I feel really fortunate to be working with these guys, and want to thank them for all of their hard work on behalf of our kids. Any questions? On report, huh? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any questions?
My only question is, and I guess it's for Jennifer, it's more of a curiosity, but does the state endorse arts in curriculum?
Absolutely, yeah. It's part of the Common Core standards that we infuse arts into all of our curriculum, and also art has its own set of standards. It's often hard for teachers to incorporate that unless they're artistic themselves or they've had some training. So something like the Art Council is really inspiring and also provides support for teachers who want to incorporate more art into their curriculum. We're supposed to be doing that all the time, but especially in elementary school, it's hard to be jack of all trades and be good at everything. So this helps kind of move us along and keep the arts as part of our curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, the next report is about the Avid via integrating determination.
There you go. This is very exciting. So good evening again, and I'm really happy to report to you that we are on our way to becoming our own AVID program here in Hollister School District. When I worked in Santa Cruz, we had an AVID program there. I was the district director for the AVID program. Got to know it, and when Lisa said that we had the opportunity to enroll some of our schools in the program, I was really excited. And Liz is nodding because at the high school there is also an AVID program, and our schools will have programs that feed into our high school AVID program. So again, this relates to our district goal number 1 about student achievement. AVID is a huge organization that works with thousands of teachers and students every year. Their mission is to close the achievement gap and prepare all students for college readiness and success. AVID started out as a college prep style program in high schools and has now moved into the elementary, which is exciting for all of us, I think. AVID is a direct support structure for academic and career success. It's a college prep system still, but extending down into kindergarten. It starts with rigorous instruction, talking about college, what that looks like, talking about careers, helping students imagine their futures. It is a school-wide and a district-wide approach to curriculum and rigor. They're up to 6,000 schools. I actually just looked at the updated amount, but they are across most states and in several countries. Part of the AVID program is to engage teachers in changing the way that they teach and to address these needs of students to go to college and to think about their futures. So their professional development program is excellent and also really opens up teachers to the idea that if we choose the right strategies, we can affect all kids and make them successful. There is a certification process for AVID. We're going to be embarking on our first year of certification. We do not have to meet any kind of certification to stay in AVID program. At the end of a year, a site team gets together. So the teachers that are in AVID, any support teachers, a principal and counselor gets together and looks at their certification document with these 11 essentials and decides on a rubric where we score. If we score at a certain level, we are certified. If we don't score, we're provisionally certified. And there's no requirement to be certified to keep going. Obviously, though, the goal is to score at the highest levels on the rubric. And once you do that, the highest levels are what they call school-wide AVID. So it's not just a few classes and a few kids, but the whole school that embraces the program. And so the ultimate goal is for us to move it school-wide. So the typical AVID student is selected by certain criteria. However, there's a part of the certification which requires that students volunteer. Especially in middle school, AVID students have an elective class which takes the place of other electives. So it's important that students be dedicated to AVID. Most kids, once they get in, don't want to leave because it's a family and a really good feeling to be related to other kids in this way, and they take college trips, and there's all kinds of great things that happen for them. But the average student profile for AVID is to target those kids who are in the average range. So not the kids who are really failing and struggling, because those kids need intervention, but also not the kids who are getting all A's and B's and who don't need support. It's those kids right down the middle. Their grade point average in general is 2.0 to 3.0. There's a range, and certainly some kids have higher and some kids have lower grade point averages. They're identified for college potential. Usually that's through an interview. What do you think about college? Have you considered it? Has anyone in your family gone? You know, what are you thinking about for your future? And most importantly, we're trying to find kids that have a desire and determination to succeed no matter what. And again, sometimes that's built. Sometimes they select kids and encourage kids to attend who don't necessarily have that already, but have potential to have that. They're especially looking in programs for the first child in the family that will attend college. So one of the really important criteria for students attending college is that they know someone who attended college that they can ask questions to. So getting a student into the AVID program gives them exposure to other students and to the teacher and to what college is all about. Also, any students who are historically underserved, an example of this would be maybe a foster child who wouldn't necessarily be on a college trajectory without some support. Often the students are low income or have some special circumstance. Sometimes it's a divorce in the family, you know, one of 10 children in the family who may need some extra support to just be achieving in school with a little bit of support. One of the things that happens in the AVID elective can be that the teacher does a grade check. They sit down and take a look at the grades. How are you doing? How was your homework? Is there anything I can help you with? Another thing that happens during that elective is a tutorial, a really specific kind of tutorial where the kids have to take ownership of their learning, come up with a problem that they need help with, and the rest of the class helps them with it. So it's a really unique model. It's really exciting. I believe 96% of the kids in AVID programs across the whole program, 96% of them went off to college in the fall this last year. So that's really exciting. And that's certainly what we want for our students. This is just, you don't have to read all of these, but just know that there's an academic focus to AVID, including organization and study skills. AVID programs often have a binder where they're teaching students how to store their papers, how to organize and plan for their homework, how to take notes in class so that they remember what happened. But there's also reading, writing, inquiry, and collaboration strategies that the teachers teach and also can infuse in the whole school. So after our teachers go this year to Summer Institute, they'll come back with some of those strategies. And while they'll be able to use them in their own classes, hopefully they'll also come back and spread the word to the other teachers in their school. So we have 3 schools that are going to be AVID programs this next year. We're off to Summer Institute in about a week, a little over a week. Rancho, Mays, and Calaveras will form a site team. The site teams will go off to the training and will come back and develop a site plan, which means they'll decide how they're going to recruit students. At first, we're going to just place students into the class, but over time, we'll talk about how to help students understand what the program is so that future generations of students can volunteer. We'll work with the high school to develop a seamless program between the two so that our students know how to get into AVID in high school if they so desire to continue. We'll develop that AVID elective at the 2 middle schools, Rancho and Mays. The elective program is not part of the elementary program, and Calaveras is considered an elementary program even though they have middle schools because they're self-contained. So the things that happen in AVID elective will happen in the homeroom class. And those site teams will be deciding which of the grade levels at their site will first start with the AVID elective activities and strategies. So it could be 7th at one school, it could be 7th and 8th, but they haven't had a chance to meet yet and plan their program. So that will happen at Summer Institute. And finally, we are just so excited. AVID is an expensive program, and when Lisa considered whether or not we could get this program and asked me about it, I was really excited. But both of us sat down and said, if we're going to do this, we want to do it right. We want to do it really well. So we'll be investing a considerable amount of resources and time to make sure that the students in our district get a really high quality AVID program. And after closed session, I wanted to make an introduction. Is that okay? Okay, I just want to make sure we're okay. So this is Caroline Calero. She's our new Director of Learning and Achievement. Can you stand up and give us a hello?
Hi.
So Caroline was a high school principal and also a middle school principal and has worked in several AVID schools. So we're excited to have her along. She'll be our new director and work with all of curriculum assessment, instruction, professional development, but she'll be supporting our AVID program as well. Yeah.
Jennifer, help me to understand this. I've got a classroom at a school. It's got 30 students in it. Let's just say they're 7th graders. So are some of those 7th graders in that classroom in AVID and some are not?
So if you are the AVID teacher teaching the AVID elective at Rancho, then all of the 7th graders in that class are considered AVID students. But the goal is really to help all students become part of the AVID program, even if they're not in that elective class. So it takes a long time for the strategies and for the attitude to be infused into a school, but it really changes the school culture. At Mission Hill Middle School in Santa Cruz, it has a really good program. And also Harbor High School has had a really good program. And many kids think they're an AVID even though they don't have the elective because they benefit from some of the activities. They get to go on some of the college trips. They get to, their teachers all participate in an organized binder system. So every student has a binder. The teachers are always talking about AVID strategies. Okay, everybody, we're going to take Cornell notes, one of our AVID strategies. So some of the kids don't realize that they're not actually in the program, even though they're in the school. So the highest level on the certification rubric is school-wide AVID. So some students have the elective, some students don't have the elective, but everybody benefits from the professional development and the strategies. It's a little confusing.
I was having a hard time visualizing it in the lower grades.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very different. I actually have not seen it myself in lower grades. There are Avid demonstration schools, so we can go visit one and we can see what it looks like. I've done some YouTube video shopping and seen some Avid elementaries. It really is a focus on being academic. So we are students, we are capable, we can do rigorous coursework, we're gonna keep trying and be persistent. We know what college is, we might have a career day. It's sort of an attitude. And that is why it's called advancement via individual determination. It's sort of equipping students with the belief that they can be successful and a trajectory to plan for. And so it's really great when there's Avid elementary and middle school, because then when students leave elementary, they go to middle school. When they leave middle school, they go to high school. And there are Avid college programs. Most actually colleges support their Avid students in transitioning to their first year of college. So it's a real support for students who may not otherwise be supported in that journey.
So is this something that's in progress right now?
We're ready to go to Summer Institute. We're going to begin the certification process, but the first step is to take that site team that goes to Summer Institute and come back and plan. We have Avid electives scheduled, but when you first start, even the teachers may not know what the program is, so it takes a while. If they go to training, they're going to get some really great professional development and a step-by-step guide on how to go from just being a school to being an Avid school. So we'll start taking the steps together.
Okay, so I guess is this something for the current school year?
Mhm.
Yep. Okay.
Yes, we're starting right now.
Do we have certain days, collaboration days with the high school that we?
We have not set them yet. Lori Chavez is the high school Avid teacher, and she and I crossed phone calls several times. And so now that Caroline is here, she is going to contact Lori and we'll make sure that we connect with them. It's not, it is important that we contact the high school because we want to team up with them, but because we're so new, we're not going to have a lot to talk about at first, except for maybe a visit over there, a meeting, a little conversation about what this is going to mean. Because a year from now, our first Avid students, if we have an 8th grade elective, will move into 9th grade Avid, can move into 9th grade Avid. So it could really change their program. So that's the first conversation.
Yeah, because I know with the impact of Avid, what that would translate with the high school and teachers and, everything else, the sections and whatnot. So it's a big impact.
Could be
If
really
we
big.
could develop it, at the elementary level, and the interest is there, the passion, because Avid, for kids that once they enter Avid, you're right, they want to be in Avid the whole 4 years, because it is such a strong familial environment for them. And the fact that they have somebody guiding them, which they may not have at home, because your target kids are the kids that are falling through the cracks. A lot of these kids are my migrant students that don't have somebody supporting them, directing them, showing them the path of going to college, or even the possibility of exposing them that they can go to college. So to have that mindset earlier on, these kids are just going to be like, okay, I already know what classes I want to take, so by the time they're in high school, they're off. There isn't even a question as to, I don't even know what to do. And so I think that is just amazing to be able to start with them at our level. And, for us to introduce it and develop it at this younger age, the high school just better be ready for our kids.
Here we
They're
come,
gonna be
right?
rocking it,
Yep. There's a lot of research that says that kids have determined whether or not they'll go to college by 4th grade. So
No, I've seen it.
So
I've
we
seen it
haven't
firsthand.
introduced that. Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited. So thank you for asking those questions about the high school, and let's keep talking, because I do think that that's an important connection for us, because their program will grow and be stronger as our program gets stronger.
Correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to add that I had no part played no part in seeing this program come to this district, but I'm thrilled to see you adopting the program here. It's a fantastic program. I've seen it across schools, school districts, and counties, and it is a program which warms my heart because not, in addition to everything that you've heard and you board members have said, for me, it also addresses what often the kids that drop out, that do fall through the slats, but they're often average kids, as they said.
Yes.
You know, we often pour a lot of time and energy and resource into the low achieving students, and we often think that the high achieving students have some magic formula that they achieve no matter what. But it's this middle of the road students that often get forgotten. And they are students with high potential, but aren't reaching it for some reason. And this program reaches out. And I personally can identify with that. You know, I think that, you know, there's kinds of things where you come from a, you know, first generation college attendance, you come from a family of poverty, you know, that you know, there's no talk of college whatsoever. And there are students out there that have potential. And I think, you know, it's just wonderful we have that. When I was young, there wasn't such a program, and you had to just make your way no matter how. And many didn't. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to see this program in this district, and I'm glad you all had the foresight to see it long before my arrival. But you know, I'm certainly going to
Be a champion for us.
champion for it.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Okay, number 12 on the agenda, are consent items that are considered routine and may be enacted by the board in one motion. There is no discussion. These items are prior to the motion unless as specifically told. So I will entertain a motion to approve 12A through 12P.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. On to 13A, which
Yes, it
is
says it's an item,
ratification,
but it has been requested.
yeah. Agreement between Hollister School District and the police consulting. Mr. Tuba is going to share.
Good evening again, John Toledo, Director of Facilities. This item is a ratification of the agreement with the school district and police consulting services to provide administrative services for a Measure B bond program. As you know, police consulting services has been our project management company, as well as also provided administrative support for all of our Measure M bond projects. This contract is an hourly contract, so it's not the same as the previous contract that we had for Measure M. Strictly for Measure B, it's an hourly contract not to exceed $25,000. As you know, the board at the previous meeting approved some contracts already with the intent to utilize Measure B funds, and we are in need of properly tracking those funds for not only our purposes, but also our auditing purposes and our Citizens Oversight Committee responsibilities as well. The intent is to have police consulting services perform these duties on behalf of the district until the district's business office is able to accept that role and accommodate that responsibility moving forward. So do you have to answer any questions you need?
So I have a number of questions about this. So they're still providing the project supervision, construction management tasks, correct?
For Measure M, not for Measure B.
Okay, so they're not having anything, okay, got it. So they will not be providing those services for.
Only administrative services for Measure B. So that's one of those.
That's what this contract is
That's
for,
what
but
this-
outside of this contract that are not involved at all.
They're still under contract for the remaining of the Measure B projects.
Okay, so that's what concerns me is you have them performing services and now you have them doing the accounting those services. And that bothers this chief financial officer that there's not a checks and balance there.
It's actually the same services that they have been providing, so it's more or less documenting the information that's being submitted for more or less your pay apps or your pay warrants that are submitted to our district office or business office for payment for services that were rendered by the various contractors. Keeping track of all that, record keeping, providing financial information in regards to what we've spent, and then meeting obviously with the business office and then reporting to the COC on those funds and expenditures.
So again, they're doing the project management, which involves all of that, interface with the contractors, letting contracts and all this other stuff. And now they're going to be the ones responsible for the record keeping and the accounting of that. And that sort of concerns me. I mean, it just seems like there's a conflict of interest there, because if you had another firm doing it, they might be able to point out, oh, hey, you've already paid this, or why are you paying this, you know, having the discipline, another firm might have the discipline to say, it doesn't seem right you're paying this. But in this case, it's the fox measuring or watching, you know, guarding the hen house. It would seem like. I mean,
Just to be clear, the Measure B bond funds, there will be no project management at this time for police consulting. They'll simply be record keeping, doing the paperwork on behalf of the district, which they've already been doing the same type of work for the Measure M bond funds in those projects. So it's just keeping that consistency of what we've already had in place for the last 3 years and continuing with that process for the Measure B funds so we can keep them separated, so we can track them and report properly, while our business office is in transition.
Again, that's a couple things concern me about this. I mean, I see they're responsible for public requests. I mean, one of the reasons I ran for the seat is because as a member of the oversight committee, I had to pay to see documents, and that has never sat well with me. It was specific to this firm. It's just, again, it's that attitude that just says, I don't know. I mean, I sort of want to keep the project supervision and things like that separate from the people that are responsible for doing the accounting of it. There's also an error, I think, under general administrative duties where it just says assist districts. So this is the other concern I have. And again, don't get me wrong, I think Mr. Police has done a wonderful, job on some areas, but do we know how big his firm actually is? Because when I see glaring errors like that, I'm going, is the firm getting too stretched? And only you can answer that, by the way. I don't think any of us interface with it.
I wouldn't bring a contract before the board if I didn't feel that the firm was qualified to do this work.
Any questions? I will entertain a motion to approve the ratification agreement of Hollister School District and Police Consulting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any way we can get clarity on some of the questions that Rob brought up?
Say it again.
Is there any way we can get clarity on some of the questions that Rob brought up?
I thought,
First of all,
it was his opinion.
just to be clear on the procedure here. Called for a motion and it was first and seconded. The next step is to ask for discussion. Is there any further discussion before we call for the vote? And so I need to ask you to hold up just a minute. There is a first and a second. There's a motion on the floor, but we must ask if there's any further discussion from the board before we take that vote. And there is a question in the form of discussion from Mr. Hernandez. Would you restate that question again, Mr. Hernandez?
You bring the mic up. Make sure you can hear me. I just wanted clarity on that question because, and I definitely appreciate and trust John you know, with all that he's provided. Maybe I'm not understanding what the implications of administrative versus, like, you know, it's like, if you have a job to do and you're hiring yourself to do the job, and then you're hiring, you know, that it kind of creates, I don't see the separation, so I don't understand where you know, that there's no ability for someone to do anything that they shouldn't be, I guess.
I think we need to have clarity, and I want to ask John, if you don't mind, one more time. I know I'm very new at this first day kind of thing, so I apologize. I should come with more expertise. I know we briefly spoke about it this morning, but I want to make sure I understand this myself, that the police consulting firm, that project management only on Measure M, and are going to be, and you're asking for a contract approval for the police consulting firm to do the administrative services for Measure B. Is that correct? Just start there.
That's not totally correct.
They did both on Measure M,
They did both on Measure M.
but they'll only do, they'll only do the administrative arm for Measure B. So I needed to have that question answered before I could provide some answers for the questions here. So as I see it and understand it, please correct me if I'm incorrect. You've already approved a contract and already received the services, mostly of which were both project management services and project administrative services for Measure M, which is pretty far down the road as far as I know. That's already there. So actually the questions about, is there any potential or conflicts of interest between the same firm doing project management and doing administrative oversight for a bond measure, that boat's pretty far down the river, because that was what happened on Measure M. What John is asking for is to approve this firm's contract for only the administrative arm of Measure B. So it would, if you have a concern that there is a conflict of interest, then you're only approving tonight, being requested to approve the one arm of the two arms, if you will, of the services that are needed for. I do feel that project management is needed for a bond measure. I do think that administrative oversight, and that's more of the financial keeping of the fund, are both important services. I think the question is valid of whether the same firm should do both. I'll state that up front. I think that's a valid question. But for tonight's purposes, it's a moot point, because you're only being asked to do one part of it. You're only being asked to do the administrative arm. If we had that concern, it's already done. That firm did or has or is doing, I don't know where you are in the actual implementation, 50%, 70%, 90%, 100% through with Measure M. If that's the case, this firm did both of those, and John is stating to his judgment, it was done, both were done well. Now he's coming back and asking just for the administrative. I think if this board has concern that both of them, that both of these arms should not be done by the same firm, then you limit the approval of this one if you want, and to say if John comes back with a request for project management for Measure B, that we would like to see, a balance between two firms that have a check and balance system. I think they're valid questions that are asked, but I think at this point, it's a moot question. I think it's great for the future. I don't think it's pertinent, it's a valid question. I don't think it's pertinent tonight, because they're only John's only asking for one arm of it.
And I appreciate the clarity, Dr. Barr. I think that makes way more sense. And I'm, sorry, just when there's Measure M, Measure B in the midst of that, project management, administrative, putting the two together, I think most likely, like, I can't get to three without getting from one to two first, like, and my head didn't put it together. So it makes sense more now. We obviously made the decision prior, And I trust John that, that everything worked out fine. We've already obviously seen, and it's just the administrative part from that commission.
What is the final item on that list?
Final item on the list.
On general administrative duties?
The bullet, the last bullet.
Assist districts.
Assist districts, I'm assuming that that's assist district.
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
The last bullet says assist districts. And I'm assuming that it was meant to say assist district as needed.
Is it title? I mean, that's just.
The intent is to have them so that we can
Assist
continue,
our
assist our
business
shortfall
office.
in the business office. Because we do have expenditures coming very soon, because we are moving full steam ahead with this new school.
Okay, so I go back and correct my mistake. And,
Thanks, John.
I had a motion, I had a second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing is approval of the drug-free zone signage. Want to,
Yes, per request of the board, I bring this item back for your discussion and review. And I have provided the board some examples of some signs. I left the physical copies with you there at the dais. So the first one is more or less the existing signs that we have at our school site. So again, just for reference, the safe school notice where all visitors must check in. That's in English and in Spanish, as well as our board policy for notifying the public for video surveillance. That's in English and in Spanish as well. And then we have a more generalized safe school notice that prohibits a number of items such as alcohol, drug, weapon, and bully-free school zone. So that's what we currently have. And staff was directed to provide some other options of signs that other school districts have used. And so example one would be just your more generic drug-free zone, school zone. Example two would be the word drugs with a slash and the verbiage no drugs. And then example three would be similar to the existing sign that we have now, but it says zero tolerance and identifies more or less the same items that we have listed on our existing signs.
yeah. What color are these signs?
So I made a color copy for you as
Okay.
well. So we have blue for your general check-in, check-out. We have red for the cameras, and we went with the green color for the no alcohol, drugs, bullying.
In my experience, when there's too many signs, I don't see any of them. So I would just shine it off and we stand there and read each one every time I walk down the campus. Including the ones in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. I would just try to read it just because it's there. But I think the color makes a big difference. When you say that we're drug-free, safe school is in green, this is good. Red is in, pay attention. Blue. Blue is blue.
I reviewed these this morning again, and I think they are good. And sometimes, we feel like we're overdoing it. But I think with these subjects, there is a need, especially in today's world, to notify the world. There are many people who just ignore them and they see too many signs, they read none of them. That's, I think, a common practice. But I think from a district's point of view, especially from its liability point of view, they have to be there. When somebody does violate these, they can't say, well, we didn't know. Even checking in at the office. I don't know of a school that doesn't have a sign that says, please check in at the office, or all visitors must check in at the office. I think you're going to see tighter and tighter regulations, more and more signs, more and more security provisions. It's not a world that I'm pleased to be talking to you about, but it is today's world. And we have to take every precaution necessary. So I am in support of the signs, the enlargement of signs, the color of signs, the fact that they cover videos, they cover check-in at the office, the drug-free zones, you name it. There's a great world out there that's changing very rapidly. Sometimes I'm almost happy that I'm at the point of my career where I am, that's behind me, and I don't have to face all these difficult decisions. But the more you do, the better with this world. And that's my last comment. What do you want to?
I love the zero tolerance. Number one, the original mention of the signs was more relative to Prop 64, right? It's not whether you're for or against it. That's not going to be my comment. It's relative to what the kids understand the message is, So it was more of to us, it's a reminder that, which not everybody follows the current laws and the changing of laws and how they even been enacted in local governing bodies. It's more specific to clarifying the message to our district, to our kids, to even the parents, right? Because even if you're legally able to carry, now especially with recreation, so it's another element to consider, but that still doesn't mean you can bring it on campus. And I would imagine that would be an I didn't know statement, or even for some kids, they might think it's not as big of a deal and then therefore assume otherwise, and then all of a sudden we're dealing with the implications of it. Maybe a lot of kids get into trouble because of this. I don't know. I'm part of the opioid task force. I haven't gone for the last couple of months, but I know that was a big mention, is just the assumptions, the reality versus assumptions and abuse of disease. And I think more clarifying you can try to be, that's how marketing works. When you repeat the statement enough times, it's finally in the head of the individual after they heard it the 10th time. They're like, oh, that's right. And that was our hope.
I'm confident in our classrooms. I haven't spoken with the teachers,
Our teachers are
but I'm sure they're
missing that all the
doing,
time.
they're doing great work in this area. I'm confident. But I always remind people that no matter what Proposition 64 said, is how we interpret it, how it's been implemented, it never said it was okay for anybody under the age of 18. Medically or recreational, it's for adult use only. And I should correct myself. I don't know. I suppose a doctor could write a prescription for a minor, but I would be highly surprised. I've never seen that. But recreationally, there's no doubt in my mind it says for adult use, 18 and up. And we certainly don't have any 18s or above. But it also involves adults, even visitors. But the biggest issue that I faced in the last district in which I helped like this, at the middle school level, because it was a unified district, and so we had issues every day at the high school, to be honest with you. So I mean, you don't think it's an issue every day. We were finding possession or use of. But at the middle school, our biggest issue was edibles. So, we're going to face that issue. There's going to be parents who even support the the use of cannabis, even cooking them in brownies and sending them to school. And then somebody share, somebody coming with a group of cookies or brownies and sharing them with their friends. I don't want to tell tales out of school and war stories, but in my short time in that district, we had to haul a girl off by ambulance to the hospital who had just been given something by a friend. And it was frightening. But you have to face that in school. So the more you can do with signs, the more we can do in classrooms, the more we can do as our administrators, the more we can do as a board, better.
Okay, so if I got this right, in essence, we're looking at replacing the top sign here with another one that says zero tolerance. Is that a proposal, or to accept the ones that we currently have? Would we,
Give me the motion, I'll make a motion that we direct John, I guess, to adopt, or the district to adopt the zero tolerance sign over the alternatives given. I'll make that motion if that's what we're supposed to do.
any idea how much that costs to change out one of the signs?
It's a motion. We want to see if there's a second. Is there a second to the motion to direct John to continue?
Second.
Okay. Now, is further discussion. The question was, is there cost involved in this? Do we know?
I don't have an exact cost, but there would be a cost for us to purchase new signs and take down the old signs.
It's probably something in, I guess a guesstimate would be maybe in the $5,000 category.
That sounds.
I'm just guessing also.
That sounds good.
And by the way, Board, I think that I appreciate the approach that you really want to give direction to your superintendent or your board. This is an item that's just an issue that it's kind of what I call a tweener between policy and administration. We're asking you for permission to put signs up because it may have an impact across the community. You may get phone calls or whatever. So it becomes a board issue, but truly it's an administrative function. You really want your administration just to move ahead, get these signs put up. It's an opportunity to say, no, it's something I don't want, but I don't think I'm hearing that from you. So I think it's really a time in which if it's an action item, I guess it is, simply say, the motion, I believe, was to say yes to the administration to move ahead on placing these or changing these signs to what you see in front of you.
Well, this is what we currently have. So the top sign, our bar would be then replaced with this.
Okay, very good. So the board,
We already have these in our school.
so it's a matter of asking the board for approval to change the smaller signs to the bigger signs.
Just replace this one.
That one.
It's actually a board member asking the administration to replace it.
So as you'll see, example 3, it has the no smoking symbol versus the no bully.
Right.
So would you prefer to have the no bully or the same language that's on our existing sign, but just no tolerance, much larger?
And we add no tolerance.
Well, we can replace the safe school notice with no tolerance, similar to what this sign says, and still leave the same message.
Right.
It's there. I could actually look at that, and there may be something that we could utilize to modify the existing sign. That I could at least investigate that.
My only question is there a way to remove, and this is, just with the element of, I know the law changed, it didn't allow for, basically they eliminated the gun-free zone language in the law. And obviously, we already have a policy that says they're not allowed, which is fine. But all I'm saying is to have a sign that says where gun-free zone is, The reason why they eliminated that, or at least from my understanding, was because you don't want to just publicly advocate to people that no one on that campus. And technically, we do have, police officers that do. So it's almost like an invitation that people know that because it's gun free at that point, it's an open, it's like, it basically becomes an environment that's free for a criminal to do something he shouldn't be doing, right? To take a gun on campus. So I don't want to put the worst case situation out there, but if that being the case, we are a gun free zone, but just to have maybe take off that gun. I would want the wrong person to know that, I guess. Kind of the reverse.
Yeah, no, I see your point. Yeah, people know, oh, there's no guns and I can bring a gun on to do bad stuff.
Yeah.
We can-
Right, exactly.
It's not the same.
Well, I think, my personal thing is I think you should leave the weapons.
Yeah.
In there. Whether you put the signs, cross signs through it, whether you put those icons on or not, I mean, I think it's good that you either say, safe school notice and, put alcohol, drug, weapon, and bully-free zone, or you say 0 tolerance for alcohol, drug, smoking, weapons, and
Bullying's
bullying, and that bullying. The point is, you're telling people, well, we're not tolerating any of those things, smoking, alcohol, weapons, bullying.
And I want to clarify, it's not the same thing, just because this message is to people that will pay attention and will abide by the law. This is really not having anything to do with the assumption of anybody who's not going to care to pay attention to any laws. At that point, none of these things really matter. I'm speaking to the individuals that actually care about making sure that they're not getting themselves into trouble, or at least would have a little bit more of a conviction to not do the wrong thing.
Actually, I like safe school because it's more positive direction rather than another no. So, there's a motion on the floor to change the safe school notice to one that says 0 tolerance. And seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So it doesn't pass. We'll go with these signs this year. Thank you, John.
Did I understand the action of the board that it's okay to go with safe school notice at the end of our?
Oh, yeah.
But that's what's there.
Stay-
That's there.
That's the one that's there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stay with that one and don't go to 0 tolerance.
Right.
Thank you. So, Mr. Julia, I want to excuse myself for calling you by your first name. I still haven't remembered everybody's last name yet. I was out of line.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 14B, approval of resolution 02-1819, the matter of adoption of alternative school fees and approval of SEQA.
Sequence. Yeah, sequence.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that acronym.
It's in the building world again.
So, do you have any more questions for Mr. Meyer? I will entertain a motion to pass, to approve the resolution 02-1819.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you.
You.
On to approval of the declaration of the need for a fully qualified educator for 2018-19 school year. Ms. Sanchez.
Good evening, Madam President and board members and Superintendent Dr. Barr and community. I come before you to ask for approval of item 14C, the declaration of need for fully qualified educators. This is a routine type of document that is filed each and every year by large districts. by reason or for the reason of seeking fully qualified staff. As we know, in California, we've experienced a smaller number of teachers exiting college preparation courses with a full credential. There are different and alternative avenues for educators to enter a classroom, such as entering with short-term staff permits, provisional intern permits, waivers, limited assignments, and this fulfills each and every district's needs for vacancies when there is a vacancy. In our case, our district has not requested or issued a provisional intern permit in years. I would say within the last 5 years, we have not filed for one. This is an estimate. This is a safety net for the district to determine that there would potentially be a need that is reflected in this document. This document will be filed with the CTC, the California Teachers Commission, to allow for the district to request a provisional intern permit or a short-term staff permit on behalf of a candidate. We heard earlier comments in regards to whether or not the district has a need to retain highly qualified teachers. In April, as you recall, I was able to present to the board a staffing report. In the last couple of years, in 2015-16, we had 10 resignations or releases. As each and every year goes on, that data changes. We have 17 that either resigned or were released in 2016-17. This year, we had 29. One piece of information I would like to remind the board is that when a teacher is tenured, that is the last step to the hiring process. A teacher typically, if they enter the teaching ranks with a preliminary credential, they are probationary for 2 years. There's alternative routes that could determine the teacher to be probationary longer. During that time, the district, works with the teacher and determines whether the teacher will be released via non-reelection that we do every year. For the past 3 years, we've hired over 50 staff to fill vacancies each and every year for certificated staff, for that includes also psychologists, speech and language, instructional coaches, and classroom teachers. So each and every year, we're able to fill the need. This would be the safety net for it, and it also fulfills Title V. Questions?
This is a just-in-case situation.
Yes,
Can we ask how the recruiting is going this year?
we have been recruiting nonstop. Thank you for asking. We actually have hired as of, in 2017-18, I just briefly looked, as of June 30th, for that particular year, we hired 54 FTE. We are currently, for this year, on track to fill our vacancies. Wednesday and Thursday of this week, we interviewed 20 credentialed special ed folks that will come if we hire them via an international process. So we are excited about that. That is our greatest area of need typically in special ed. Our multiple subject candidates, we have not had this great of turnout on EdJoin in many years. And I've been in HR, this is my 4th year, I believe. And we have many candidates waiting, wanting to come to our district. So,
Thank you.
I'll just weigh in and say that I think every school district would seek to have a fully qualified certificated rank where there are no provisionals, no emergency credentials.
Absolutely.
It's a perfect world that I never thought we could achieve because, I mean, there was always a greater need than we had supply. There was always a shortage of fully credentialed teachers. I'm very encouraged to hear that a greater pool of fully qualified teachers. But I think that this is in the pipeline. But I think that it's a declaration that a board says annually that we have a desire to have a full complement of fully credentialed teachers. And I just think it's almost, absolutely right. I mean, what we fill our ranks with teachers that are, in our minds and in our hopes are great teachers, but they don't have all the full credentials. They start as a provisional or as some form of a probationary status, or they're all probationary, but they form in a provisional credential. And we hope that it works out fine. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the board should always declare that they have a full complement of fully credentialed teachers.
Absolutely. It's always the district's, thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Barr. It's always the district's intent to hire a fully credentialed teacher because that is, the desire of the district. Looking into research as far as different hiring trends throughout the state of California that would allow for me to provide any type of answers that you might have, I came across some statistics. In 2015-16, the CTC issued 10,000 interim credentials, permits, or waivers, and that's more than double than what was issued in 2012-2013. So as we can see, the avenues of alternative ways of entering the classroom, they're growing, and the need is there, but that is the way that the CTC is determining for the needs to be met, and the need would be obtaining staff.
And the colleges and universities are trying to find more and more creative ways to get teachers credentialed in a quicker way and into the schools, get experience, both the academic and practicing experience they need. And I know our local universities are working very hard at that. I know from a superintendent's point of view that every time there's a provisional credential, a superintendent has to sign that application saying that we attest that we have tried our best to find fully qualified teachers and have not been successful at it, and therefore we are requesting this approval for a provisional credential. And one of the ways that I feel comfortable in signing the guide, I hope that I never have to sign one of those, but when we do, it's at least, it's not in the background. It says, well, our boards even passed a resolution saying that they want a complement. They're not necessarily happy with provisional credentials. It's a provision that we have to do to put qualified, certificated teachers in every classroom. I used to have complaints sometimes from people that said, well, I hear that there's a person that's not qualified in the classroom. I said, we don't have anybody who's not qualified in the classroom. We have some that are provisionally credentialed. They have the degree, they're in a program leading toward the completion of a program. They are working on a provisional credential, and we know no reason why they should not successfully complete that program. So I resent hearing somebody say we have non-qualified people or persons in a classroom. I defy that. But there are people working on provisional credentials. That doesn't mean they're not qualified or they're not credentialed. They are. They're credentialed with their provisional credential. And I always remind people that there's a lot of good people, some of even which become superintendents, who started on a provisional credential. So it's not a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing to declare that you'd like to have a full complement of fully qualified staff. You're learning a lot about me tonight when I first met. I came from a poor family. I was first in my job. I started on a provisional credential. God only knows what else I had behind
But I
me.
think that, the international part too, and bringing teachers from other parts of the world, I think that just enables us to tap into those attributes as well that come with those. Because I've seen some of those teachers teaching special ed, and they're amazing teachers. And the places they've come from, I mean, this is the environment that they're teaching in compared to where they were teaching in over there. It is just, it's 100 times better, but, I think that ability to open ourselves up and culturally connect to the world and bring that into our classroom environment with our teachers. If we could do that more, from all over the world, I think our kids would truly be blessed to have those types of teachers in the classroom because they bring more than just teaching.
And if you'll allow me one more, I haven't been up to date on my statistics, but the number 10,000 out of the CTC, in my opinion, is a very low number. It's been reduced from what was 20 or 30,000 at one time. And I know the last time I looked at my county of residence, which is Monterey County, I think this was just 3 or 4 years ago, that the first day of school was about to hit within a day or two, and there were 70 classrooms that did not have a teacher to start in that classroom. 70 classrooms. Now there are 24 school districts and 150 schools and over 3,000 teachers. So, put it in perspective, but there were 70 classrooms across those 24 school districts that had classrooms that they did not have even a provisionally credentialed person to start that. They did not know who was going to go into that classroom the first day. They were going to start with substitutes, bottom line. So it's improved, the economy has a lot to do with that too. There was some bad experiences back in 08 and 09 and so forth, where we had a lot of layoffs, and that discourages a lot of people from going into teaching. But this is a real world. I'm happy to hear that the number is only 10,000 at the CTC, and I still stand behind the fact that we strive to have fully credentialed teachers in every classroom, but it's a real world that we have provisionally credentialed teachers. I'm very pleased that this district, you said that you haven't had a provisional credential. It's truly amazing to me. It's truly amazing. I don't know any other districts that can attest to that.
I would like to, publicly mention that for a district our size, we have had, I think, creativity within our leadership in the sense of being able to explore having teachers from international countries such as Mexico City, Mexico, such as the Philippines, such as Spain, to help fill that need of qualified staff. And that will continue in the sense of we fly and we post here locally. However, if the ability is to work with the California Department of Education and the embassy to form those partnerships, we look forward to continuing to form those partnerships.
I'd also like to make a plug for CSUMB because CSUMB is a relatively new university, and only in 2014 did it get its College of Education. And it was a department under another department, but it became a full College of Education in 2014. And it's expanding its credentialing programs, and its service region is San Benito County, Monterey County, and Santa Cruz County. That's its service region. And those are the counties that the university is supposed to serve. So, I have a vested interest. I sit on the advisory council to the College of Education. I'm very pleased to watch that department grow. Our division now is a College of Education. It has a dean, Jose Luis Alvarado. Dr. Alvarado's a super guy, and he's really reaching out to these counties and putting together lots of credential programs. So I think that has had an impact on our schools too.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the school year 2018-19.
So moved.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All of those opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, off to the board policy with administrative regulation. etc. 14D, the approval of the second reading for the updated board policy and administrative regulations for March 2018. These weren't in the list.
No,
Okay,
that's the second.
so, and then we can approve these as a batch. Anyone wish to make that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Now. On to 14E, and my numbers are out of sync with the rest of everybody else's numbers. So, what were the ones that, John, you wanted to discuss?
So I think if we reduced it to only AR 5111.1 BP.
EP 511.
No, AR.
So actually, this is where I get confused. We have the administrative regulation, and then that we're approving. And then what is the difference between the board policy on that?
Let me explain the difference of the board policy and an AR, if you don't mind.
Sure.
A board policy is the local law. You know, I mean, we can talk about what federal law, state law, local government, we can talk about, codes, the codes of the US codes, federal, US, state codes from the state, and then we have city ordinances. And when it comes down to the school district, the law of the school district are policies. And the policy is usually very succinct, very short. It's usually a simple paragraph. It might be around safety, and it might say, the Hollister Elementary School District desires to have safety in the schools, and it hereby proclaims that there will be, safety will be a priority, and there will be a safety committee, and we will, make sure that they're safe, everything is safe. It's a very general statement saying what the board wants in general. The administrative regulation is the implementation arm of a policy. It then takes the policy and delineates it out. As a board policy is typically one paragraph, an AR is typically 2 or 3 pages, because it says how is administration going to implement this policy. And as I was saying, as an example with safety, the AR might say, the school district to meet the education policy such and such as, will have a safety committee, it will look at facilities, it will look at all equipment in the classrooms, it will have a committee that meets once a month, it will make a report annually or biannually to the school board. There will also be, a once-a-year audit by an outside consultant to look at the safety issues. It'll go all into the implementation of a very general statement called the board policy. The administrative regulation is the implementation of the policy. So, and generally speaking, administrators use the ARs, boards use the BP. They make the board policy. Administration usually writes the AR and brings it back and shows you that this is how we're going to implement the policy. Is that good enough, Mr. Barnowski?
Yeah, I think it does. So and I'm going to go back to the AR 5111.1. So what my concern is that, we see all this building going up and we have relatively flat enrollment, and we're predicting it to be relatively flat. Yet we're investing in a new school, and it's, from the design, the school appears to be, it's going to be our flagship school. It's going to be new, it's beautiful, it's going to sit high on the hill. And between that and our growing HDLA program and our, which I don't know where AAA is, but we have all these great things, going on. And I don't want a policy that is restrictive in any way, shape, or form to somebody that might want to come into our district. I think whatever the name of the new school is going to be, I think that that's going to draw from other school districts. And I just want to make sure that we're prepared. We don't have anything in the way of people, coming in. So what I saw was that the school district of choice got redlined out. Is that state law gone now? I mean, why did we?
No, you can elect to be a district of choice or not.
See, I would rather, I mean, again, I saw that and go, wait a minute, because we have all these hurdles for inter-district transfers. And, you know, I want as many to come in. And, you know, those that are unhappy with us, I want them to be able to leave. I don't like building walls, to keep students in, and I certainly don't want to build walls to, you know, keep students out. I mean, education is a competitive thing. Like I said, you know, we just, because we don't want to say that we're zero tolerance because that's too tough. Some parents, they may not like that. They want them that we're zero tolerance, right? Or again, we have the HDLA, which I don't think any other school district in the area has. That's a big draw to people, right? I mean, I'm getting chatter that they want the new school just to be dedicated to that. So anyway, are we, I don't know who can answer the question, but it just seems like we're getting more restricted for people that want to come in, and that's not the message I want to send.
Well, my understanding is the school of choice, because we have so many options, that it's, we were zoned as neighborhood schools, so that it was easier for families that lived around Calaveras to walk their kids to that school. They wouldn't need to be bused or anything unless they're coming to the junior high, which remains. But within our structure, within the district, I want to send my kids to HDLA, but I'm zoned for Calaveras. I want to be able to have my voice within the district to know which school I want to pick for them, and not just be stuck at Calaveras and not have options.
And just to be clear here to everyone, if we start talking about choice, we need to clarify whether we're talking about intra-district transfer choice or inter-district transfer choice.
Yes.
And the policy is on inter-district transfer. So Mr. Bernowski was saying about you can declare yourself schools of choice, district of choice, and that really means students have a right to come in or leave at their will. And you don't really have restrictions on when you're going to approve exiting from the district or entering. I can tell you from an administrative point of view, there are concerns on both sides. I can also tell you that even only being in my third day here, I've spent a fair amount of time and looking into inter-district transfers, because there was about at least 10 on my desk when I arrived. They were in or out. And I think it's only fair to disclose what I discovered. And that is that you have a policy that says you can limit exiting requests for inter-district transfer to 1% of your population. And I think you have, rough numbers again, forgive me. I think you have around 5,500 students.
5,400.
Okay, let's say just call it 5,500 students. 1% of that would be 55 students. And your policy either says 1% or 75, whichever is greater. Well, you're currently cooking around 500. I don't know if I'm telling secrets out of school here, but this is an open meeting. And this is a time you're asking about board policy. You have a policy that says we can restrict exiting to 1% or 75, whichever is greater. Well, 55 is 1%, 75 is greater. So we could use 75. And quite frankly, for all intents and purposes, while there have been a number of denials, it still sits at around 450 to 500. Am I correct about that number?
850 requests.
850 requests. How many
approved? I would say it's probably about 60.
Around 500 approved. Just to give you a round number of what this policy affects, there's 850 applications that come to the superintendent every year. And some of them are ongoing, and if you know policy, inter-district transfers, once you approve it, it's supposed to be approved for 5 years. So many of those are just for ongoing, and they just routinely checked for ongoing. But there are concerns, and while Mr. Bernowski makes some good points, I love a district that has such confidence in itself that says, you want to come to our district, fine, don't leave our district, fine, we think we're great. If you think something else is better, see you later. But
there are some ramifications to that if the numbers start getting large. And one of the financial ramifications from that is that we ran the numbers today. $3.4 million. So, you know, and these are just things all open for discussion. You know, you'll learn in the short time you have me that I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said. And good, bad, or different. And if you like me, fine. If you don't like me, fine. I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna.
No.
I'm not here to, for a popularity contest.
I'm worried this is going, my theory is, the new school is going to be a magnet. And plus some things your predecessor had done, like our marketing programs and stuff. But eventually, I think it's going to take hold, and I just want to make sure that we're sending the message that if you want to bring your kid into our district, you are more than welcome. I think if the kid wants to go to, or a parent wants their child to go to Lad Lane instead of, Sarah Vista or whatever, I think, we should allow that because it's a whole marketing thing. And again, I don't like building walls, and this does not address that. I don't like building walls to keep, parents in. I mean, again, not to beat a dead horse, just because we won't state that we're zero tolerance, I would never send my kid to the school district. Sorry. Now, those are my values, but it's, I would beg, borrow, or steal before, I let my kid into a school that won't say that. And that's why it's so adamant, to me. But I don't know who can answer, the question here, but is this building a wall to keep people out, or does it make it easier for people? Or do you guys disagree that, the new school won't be?
Well, I can try to answer it to say that it's neither one, Mr. Panowski. It's neither a wide open, anybody can come or anybody can leave, and neither it's absolutely restricted. It's a case-by-case consideration. It has a policy that says, here are the following reasons for which we will allow students to exit, and here are the following reasons why, under which we could consider students coming in. It's backed up by education code, and you have a policy that was actually authored by attorneys. I've looked at it already. I think there could be consideration for looking at it again. But for example, even if this board said, we just want to be absolutely welcoming to everybody, you have, for example, a space limitation. If your schools are all at capacity, your classrooms are all at classroom maximum size, you can't just automatically, 100 kids come to your door and say, we just love this district, want to come in. You can't do that.
But we are adding 800 seats or 700.
That's great.
To that school.
You're increasing the capacity for your ability to say yes to students, families that want to enter on an inter-district agreement to come into the district. It's a balancing act. Your space allocation, your philosophy as a board, your rationale, what you approve. The code, the end code is pretty clear. Work, the place of location of work of the parents, curriculum, specific curriculum, program, childcare, other sorts of things. This district right now has a philosophy that childcare is the least of those concerns, which is interesting to me. As I keep using this excuse that only been here, but childcare is a valid, it is a valid reason for consideration. I don't mean that it's automatically approved, but one of the rationale that was given to me was that because we're a city and because we're close enough, childcare shouldn't matter. If you're 3 miles away from your babysitter, and you have a second grader at this school and the babysitter is 3 miles away, that shouldn't matter because it's only 3 miles away. I don't agree with that, but I'm just, newbie here, but, if parents both work in San Jose and you expect the child to walk 3 miles to the babysitter at 6 years old, 7 years old, I can't buy that as an educator. I can't wrap my mind around that. No matter what the circumstances are about, we're not going to accept childcare as a rationale for
intra-district or inter-district transfer. But that's just me.
I don't want to be, but what caught my attention was these red lines that seem to be taking options away from people to come into our school district. And I just don't have the background,
I don't know how
Make
effective
you-
we are.
where did this originate from? Who put this,
It's an update from previous.
well, I know, but by who? This,
I'm the one that updates, number one. And number two is, we found nothing, since I've been here, in our file to say that we're district or a school of choice. So we had to cross that out because we can't find it that says that we're a district of choice.
Thank you. I don't believe we are a district of choice. I've never, in my travels, I've never heard it, there aren't a lot of school districts of choice. Now, there's a few that are bold enough to say, absolutely, I think it's a little bit of a statement to say, we feel we're good enough. If you don't want to go here, leave. But there's a risk attached to that, a very high risk. But it's the same about coming in. And I think, most districts accept students that come in that have their exit approval from their district of residence. They usually accept the other district's rationale for letting them exit. If you want to come in, fine, come in. I don't think we deny very many requests to come in. I don't think again, I've only looked at.
You come in, I have a list of 120.
Okay. And, it's been pretty much, you want to come in, come in.
For most of them, yes.
Yeah. So I don't think we have a problem of not hanging out the welcome sign. But I think more of our issue is in requests to leave. And this is just a revise and update of the policy you already have. So you have a choice, Madam Chair, of either approving this as with the changes, or directing that it go back to administration and go back to another review process and come back to the board again.
So is there a way to look and analyze the reasonings why families are wanting to exit our district, to kind of track what that looks like?
We do have a tracking mechanism, but the reason for requests, every situation is different.
Right.
But we can give you a breakdown from your employment reasons. Back in the day, it was nickel leave, was no longer an option. And then it would be other criteria, it could be daycare if you want to broken down that way, but we do have broken down percentage of what's each one.
As a board, we're better understanding the reasoning why families are trying to leave, to know which areas we need to also focus on or do more, ourselves push, to get more of clarity, or maybe look at addressing some of those needs that our families are looking elsewhere to fulfill. If we could.
And
I
we
think
do-
we can.
We do advise them to talk to the school principal of the site from which they want to seek transfer to somewhere else.
From the conversations that I've had with some parents, I think that was where the tipping point was, is that they kept reaching out to the principals with concerns and never got any restitution on their situation with their child. So their last resort is to come here and do this. So I think for them, nobody would want to go to a principal that during this whole episode, my child being bullied, for a whole year or a year and a half, never got anywhere with the principal. That the last person I want to talk to is the principal to convince me that, because they should have been doing that with me in this whole process.
Well, it's something that we haven't really discussed either is the final resolution of this, and that is the right of appeal to the County Board of Education.
Right.
And generally speaking, the County Board of Education looks at the district policy and asks the district, did it follow its policy on denying the inter-district request? And if they did, generally speaking, the county board will support a school district's denial if their school district has followed its policy. If it has not, I can't speak for, I've only worked with one county board of education, but for 16 years, and I can tell you that board was officious regarding upholding of a board if they had a good policy. If it didn't have a good policy, they wouldn't blink to overturn the decision of the school district.
That makes perfect sense. And that, I think, should be where our board policy should really reinforce that capacity to do, so that when it does get appealed to the county's not just rubber stamping everything that goes before them and says, yeah, sure, here you go, here's your walking papers. Because whether that's been in the past, that's what was going on.
What I've seen this past 2 years,
I'm sure there.
I went with Dr. Andrew to the county, and they were very literal on how they interpreted their policy as to whether they could approve the transfer or not. And since we had our ducks in a row, they were supporting Hollister School District. And, I mean, there were some parents who I questioned in my little mind that, you know, whether they were just using excuses to go where it's supposed to be training you to go. And there were recently some parents whose request had been denied. It was denied by the county. And they said, but we work in such and such a place. And where your company say that, you know, this is your place of work. So they this is Allenville?
Yeah,
Would fall in it. And
right to have your child attend a school district in the area in which you work.
right. But then they said, well, they only go to Trexpinos. I might go there once every 3 months. And I said, well, so, you know, you think your company's gonna say that's where you spend your work day? So there are limitations. It has to be so many days, and it has to be, anyway, the county has been very supportive of the district this year. In the past, it wasn't always that way, and I don't know what changed the course of events.
Well, if there was ever an area, I think that was difficult for you as an administrator to interpret, read between the lines on an application that's in the interdistrict agreement. It always says either the work or the curriculum or the childcare, and it might have a total different motivation, but the applicant is smart enough to know that it has to say one of the areas that are listed in the code and the policy. You can't just put down that I don't like this school and I want to go to that one. It's not going to fly. And so they put down reasons, and then as we know here, you assign this to the superintendent. And the hardest thing is trying to validate all of that. And, you know, it's not something we can spend a lot of time on because as Mr. Romero said, we have 850 of them. And I had a talk with the council about this morning.
It just seems to me we should study that over and find out why over 10% of our population would like, you know, to leave. Because those parents that live up in San Jose, work up in San Jose, and that is completely understandable. I don't know how many of those are, but for, you know, the other reasons, you know, it would be good to know, because if you take that plus the charter school population, it's probably closer to, certainly closer than to 20% of our population that chooses not to be in the Hollister school district. And why is that?
valid question. I think a good starting place is to have your policy in place. I would recommend that you approve it. I would recommend that maybe throughout the year, especially when you go through a search process to hire a new superintendent, that may be one of the goals that you set as a board and serve as a direction for your new superintendent is to start searching those answers. Search to question, the answer to those questions each of you have proposed tonight. But I think at this point, I would request you to approve the policy and then possibly keep it in the back of your mind to establish as a goal for your new superintendent to come back to you with answers before the end of the year.
Anything else? Then I move that we approve the second reading of the updated board policy and administrative regulations from May of 2018. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's it.
That's all right. You said I move, which you did.
I know,
I'll
well,
accept the motion. We're going to interpret that as I accept the motion and we heard the first and second.
okay. And we heard 3 ayes. 4 ayes. Okay.
3.
Nay, all those opposed?
Nay. Sorry, Dr. Barr, I don't understand where this is coming from.
Please don't apologize. You have every right.
Okay. On to 15, which is board member reports. Well,
You know, I have nothing to report.
It's a long time. Thank God.
I'm aware of coming up.
Same here.
Nothing to report.
I've been on vacation. Been a time of year. Items for the future agenda.
Staff, you would have put those down there if you knew about them as a printing, right? So we're just going to have to wait and see if the next agenda, we don't have any new items that we just discovered in the last day or so that we would be bringing to the board.
Well, we do have a calendar, and I have no idea.
I do think,
What would be due to report it out?
well, yeah, calendar will probably be, and I do have an item, and it may be the same one that Mr. Bernowski, maybe our minds both went off at the same time, but I do believe that that I was going to ask this board for direction on their superintendent search. Is that not correct? And that I know the staff, I should say, I sense that the staff is going to want to know. And I believe that the community is going to want to know what your initial planning is. Nothing to do with me. You had an issue. You wanted to keep things rolling. You called me and asked me if I would hold it together. Now, that's all fine and well. Now, what is it that you're going to do? And I believe that you wanted to pick up just at least 3 that at the next meeting, you wanted to hear proposals about superintendent search consultants. I believe, am I repeating that correctly from your discussion with me? And that I will be responsible for bringing to your next board meeting some candidates for superintendent search consultants, not for the job, people who would do this, the consult, and they will present to you, and they will present how they do the process, what their experience is, and a timeline. And your hope is that you get this process going and started as soon as possible.
So we're going to call for
So that's what, under future board items,
RFP.
for future board, you want me to put out an RFP, yes, and bring to you some suggestions for individuals that you could consider to be your superintendent search consultant.
But Dr. Barr, do you think, in your opinion, that that timetable should include, like, do we want to wait until August 28th for this, or should we have a special board meeting prior then, or do we have plenty of time to make this happen?
For the information to get out there and for companies to respond.
The consulting,
Consultant.
yeah, and the thing is the timing. For what I'm thinking is timing. Finding someone who isn't already employed. That's gonna be the right candidate for us, who's gonna also want to be searching at this point in time.
Let me take one point at a time here. I believe Mr. Bernowski said, should we wait one full month to even choose a superintendent search consultant? Then I think we're into asking that, the person that we select, as to whether, this is a good time to search for superintendent candidates. Would it be a good time for that? Would we get a high caliber of candidates who are eligible to come to this district as a superintendent from whatever position they now hold? Those are both valid questions. I think that the first step is that you put out a request for proposal for superintendent search consultants and then ask them to come prepared to explain to you, the board, what their process is, how long it typically takes, given the timeline, what they think that your chances are of securing a highly qualified superintendent at mid-year. They do this for a living. Most of them have done many of them. And I think it would be important for you to hear them out as to how long. At that, just because you're hearing a proposal, even if you find one that you think is super, you don't have to get them started right away. You could even wait, but I will repeat what I have told you, is I think that you will never know what you will get even in mid-year until you start the process. That I have seen boards go through the process and kind of throw up their hands at the end of it. That's what happened in San Benito High School. I was the second interim that went in there, if you recall, because the first one came in and was just only going to take 4 months, and we're going to find a superintendent. And each of us were limited by our retirement eligibility for post-retirement work. And they called me and said, we now need you because the first one's expired, and we're going to go out again in the spring. And so I said, yeah, I'll come in and take over for the first one. So we all know that, I don't want to call it a game, we all know the process. But my point on this is that you'll never know. On the other hand, the next district interim I did was, well, we all know it was in Gustine, and the board was scared to death. They thought, going out in the middle of winter would be just a kiss of death. It would never happen, and they asked me to come in and help them, and, how long can you work? Maybe you just work half a day a week, 1 week. How long can you stay? But the point is, they found what I think is going to be an outstanding superintendent. And they found him in December and January. And he was able to start in March or April. And so, actually, that was the same case. Well, I know it didn't work out, but it was the same case in San Benito High School District. But it found a person whose district would release them mid-year. This is, I've always said, Sanchez, you may like this, human resources is not a perfect science. We have to go through it. This is the people industry, and it's the employment industry, which employer-employee relations and contracts are also at stake, and people's personalities and their desire to move or move up, are all in the mix. And all I can say is that you will never know until you go through the process. So my suggestion to you would be, when allow me to bring at your next board meeting some proposals for a superintendent search consultant. Let them present to you and let them show you how the process goes and what their experiences is and how long it takes and what the chances are, they believe, of you being able to find a superintendent within the next few months. if you decide to either select a consultant but have them wait until November or December, then certainly you will be looking at a second interim superintendent. Not because I don't like y'all, but because even at the couple of days a week that you've asked me to be here and help out, is that I will expire in November or December, sometime in that time frame. So if you wait to start the search until October, November, you would definitely be into March or April. Will the chances be better? Maybe so. So these are all different circumstances. So that's my that.
That just bolsters my argument. I would rather have more meetings because I think it's a big topic, and we'll be into our. I'll trade off more meetings per month over being here till 10:30 at night. That's all.
Okay. If we have a card requesting comments from the public,
We do, yeah.
that's okay. It's an item.
It's not 10:30.
No, it's fine. If a member of the public wants to speak on an item of the future, we're only discussing putting it on the next agenda.
Good evening and welcome. Sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Brenda Majora, and I'm going to speak on behalf of parents in the district because we need to be heard. I mean, given what happened, and I was at the last board meeting, there's going to be concern. We need someone in place. Thank you, sir, for stepping up and taking that position. But, if I may ask a question, exactly, you said there's a set time that you as a retired personnel are allowed to be here. During that, well, first of all, if I may ask, what exactly is that time? And then second of all, during that time, we have some very critical decisions that need to be made with our facilities and in our district. As an interim superintendent, will those decisions go ahead and continue to be made without a permanent person in place in this position?
Would you like a response from me on that? I'd be happy to answer it for you. Yes, the question is, retirees are limited to the amount of earning that they can earn in post-retirement eligibility. So the question comes, do you want to burn that up real fast? Or do you want to stretch it out by more of a part-time capacity? This board has chosen the part-time capacity. I'd like to think that if I can interpret the kind of decisions you're talking about, big decisions are going to be made. I don't think big decisions are going to be made here without my oversight. While I'm not going to be here 5 days a week, I've already met with and talked with every member of the council, and I'm going to be meeting with the principals as they return. And outside of a building fire, that takes place and I don't happen to be here on that day, the large decisions will wait the day or two until I come back. So I'd like to think that there's no question that a district needs a full-time superintendent. I also think that whether it be me or someone else, you will be in good hands with a retired superintendent, at least a successful retired superintendent. And I think the shorter period of time you make that alternative condition exist, the better off you are. If you told me you found a full-time superintendent tomorrow, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I'm happy to help out as long as you need me, and I'm happy to leave the moment you find a new superintendent. And I'm happy. I just mean I'm satisfied that you've done a job. I want to give the board and this good-minded citizen here an assurance that major decisions aren't going to be ignored. Real big major decisions might be deferred until a new superintendent comes on, because it's only fair to allow a new superintendent to be involved in a decision that's going to affect his or her years to come. It might even be like the interdistrict transfer thing. It might be fair to get that person involved in the new policy regarding interdistrict transfers. But day-to-day decisions on how to run the schools and the district has very competent people here now. I'm going to be assuring that they continue that competence, but I don't think it's in a perfect world, it would be 5 days a week. But the closer we get to that perfect world, the shorter time we're going to have with me or anybody who represents me. And then you're just going to have to go to another interim. And that transition is difficult. I think two things are important for you to know that I feel strongly about. One of them is the consideration this board had that if we're going this way, we have to have a turnkey superintendent. And I'm not here to pat myself on the back. I've been around a long time, and I believe I am a turnkey superintendent. I hope you witnessed that tonight. I also feel that we have an extremely competent senior administration here. And I've already discovered how well they work with me. We meet weekly. We cover every detail of every item that they're working on. And I put my stamp of approval on whether they move forward or they amend it or stop it. So I think those two things in place allow this board to handle its circumstance that happened. And for good, bad, or indifferent, I think they've chosen the best alternative they can. I just hope that they, in my opinion, and I'll tell them this later, I'll tell them all tonight, I think the sooner they get the process started, the more likely it is they will find a person. There is a chance that they may have to go through the round twice, and we may end up a few months past those first few months. That's the way things operate. But have a good district. You have good leaders. You need a senior leader. I'm going to try to provide that. I know it's not going to be 5 days a week because they want to extend it as long as they can. I will do the best I can. I will give them 100% of my attention, even though it's not 100% of my presence. And I'd like to think I don't let too many things slip through my slats. And you've got a great staff on the board. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And I would like to urge the board to go ahead and follow, I'm just a parent. I would like to urge the board to follow the recommendation to go ahead and get someone started on finding someone. It is going to be hard. There are some important decisions that are going to come. And that being said, I love this district. I moved here from Gilroy. I love this district. My child is happy. She's happy in the AAA program, loves it. I have some theories on my own personal opinion about why there's more wanting to leave the district and some of the other things that were brought up tonight. But I really think the board needs to go ahead and get someone, at least some companies started on finding someone and get them in place. I don't want to see you go. Great, you can stay. But we need to get someone permanent in place. The parents need to know that there is some consistency and that things are not going to stop because we have an interim superintendent. We need to know that it's not just one person that leads this district. It's everyone in this room. It's every single one of our board members, every single one of our staff. It's every single one of our principals. And it's every single one of our parents. And we're all here for the benefit of our children.
That's awfully well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we give you direction.
You-
Do
Yeah.
search.
Am I hearing, bring it back to you next board meeting? The only question is sooner, or do you wait the full?
If we get a big response, I'd love to see it sooner, but I mean, it all depends on the response. If it's a lot, and at that point.
You can't know that, so you
Yeah, so if the response is that dramatic, then maybe we can meet earlier, but if not, then end of the next month.
well, the school won't be back in session. And okay, next regular school board meeting.
They shouldn't be overly busy.
No, not at this point of the year. We might
Say that.
get a good full, they want to help. I'd love to see that.
Okay,
That's it.
everybody all right?
Mhm.
right.
Oh, again, my wish is still the same, that we have, we don't wait. I mean, it's, July, what is today, 24th. So if we wait all the way till August 28th, then that's over a month. So, we could follow up even in a couple of weeks and find out what the response is. I'm pretty sure Eric will let us know with that board updates.
And there may be a need for a special meeting between now and then regarding some closed session materials. So maybe we could kill a couple birds with one stone there at the same night.
Okay. Item number 17 on the agenda is announcements, and I have an announcement today. District is a proud owner of 12 acres of prime school land. The corner of Sunnysmith and Fairview, thanks to John and all the people that contributed, Gabe, in making that deal happen. And we've got dirt coming. Lots of dirt,
And while she's not here, compliments to Dr. Andrew
of course.
for negotiating the terms of that with the county staff. And
She, to me, she's an amazing lady that she looked at things slightly differently than I did. Okay, you want X number of dollars for this. What if we did this? Could we pay this for it? What if we did that?
She's a good negotiator.
What if we made the gym for you? Would you give it to us? She was very, very good negotiator. And I honor her. And John and Dave and all those that have worked towards that baby.
it's a good announcement. That's absolutely important. Can't do those things you talked about earlier without a piece of ground to put them all on. Good stuff.
Any other, do you have any other?
I have no other announcements.
Erica, could you give us the dates for all the events coming up at the beginning of August?
Absolutely.
For, just under this right now, the announcements. When is our back to school breakfast?
August 7th, we have staff coming back. There's different dates, so I'll go with the one that's coming closest. July 27th, we have a new teacher orientation. August 1st, we have a welcome back meeting with office staff. August 6th, we have professional development for all staff, capturing kids' hearts. Classified staff that are not on calendar will be invited to attend on a timesheet. We have August 7th is the breakfast.
And that's gonna be
At the Maze Gym.
at what time?
Can we put all that in writing and?
Absolutely.
and
We
send it
can
out?
send it to you.
Send it
Yes.
out.
Yeah, we can put it,
Ready
it's in the,
update
yeah,
this week.
it's in the
Yes.
update,
Okay,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's in the update, we've done that, and it's just waiting.
Because I know, we've gone to the breakfast.
Yes.
It's a good, it gives you an opportunity to kind of, talk to everyone, have everyone in the room, and, I think it's a good, way to kick off the year. It's just, break bread first thing, beginning of the school year.
I will be there.
Awesome.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Good job, as
Good
usual.
night. Good night.
Oh,
Yeah, we did that.
Saturday. Good night, everybody.
Well, Peter about it.
I know.
Well, Carolyn, sorry. I always have.
You doing fine, Jennifer?
Night, Peter, like.
Yeah.
Around.